I often get the phone call that says, hey, I had this thing happen. I'm trying to decide should I report the claim. And 99.9999999% of the time, I'm going to tell you, file it. Why? Well, because filing the claim protects certain rights. Now, there may be some agents who disagree with what I'm saying simply from the perspective of that having too many claims creates what they call a frequency issue. Insurance companies don't like to see lots of small claims just as much as they don't like to see one large one. But at the end of the day, if you don't file that claim and there is a problem that comes up later on and you wish you had, if you didn't comply with the filing requirements of the insurance company may then say, hey, you didn't report this claim in enough time, therefore we're not going to honor it. I often get a phone call that says, hey, something just happened, I need to file a claim, what do I do? Well, the first thing you need to do at the moment you realize that you need to file a claim is to start to document everything that's going on. If you're in a car accident, start taking pictures. If there's a fire, or if there's a flood, make sure you're getting pictures and video of what occurred or what's occurring, because all of that information is going to be beneficial to you during the claims process. And if you're a little bit past that and you're starting to put boards up on windows or tarps over your roof, make sure you're documenting where you bought those things, who was the contractor you paid to put it on there, as detailed as possible, because that's going to make the claims process much easier. The second step is you're going to notify the carrier. Now, let's talk about it as what it's called. It's called the first notice of loss. This isn't a super detailed situation where you're going to write out a dissertation of what happened. Basically, this is something very basic that says, hey, on this day, at this time, this thing happened, and carrier, I need you to look at it to see if there's coverage on my policy. That is what we need to get to the insurance company as quickly as possible so that they can assign an adjuster, and that adjuster can get that claim started for you. When a claim occurs, sometimes you have the option, right? Sometimes that claim wasn't actually your fault. So I'll get the call and someone will say, hey, my neighbor did X, which caused this property damage to happen to my stuff. It's like, should I put the claim on my policy or should it be their policy? And the difference between those two options is control. I'm an advocate for putting the claim on your own policy. Yes, I know, that means you're going to have to pay a deductible. But the reality is that if you put the claim on your own policy and it's a covered claim, you have control over certain things of how it gets fixed, when it gets fixed. You're not arguing with your own insurance company about whether or not it should be fixed. It just becomes a question of, hey, this was a covered claim and it gets paid. Versus trying to prove negligence against the liability of another party. What that means is basically now you're having to tell the other insurance company, hey, my neighbors, this is their fault, and because of that you should pay for my repairs. And what happens is that sometimes your neighbor and that insurance company are going to disagree, and that makes your repairs time just take much, much longer. Now, a really cool thing that can happen is that if you put the claim on your own policy, you pay your deductible, your insurance company is going to do something called subrogation. And subrogation means that they're going to sue the negligent party to try to get their money back, and including your deductible. So if you do it that way, sometimes, doesn't always work out that way, but plenty of times what happens is that you will put in the claim, pay your deductible, and magically 6-8 months later you get something that you never thought would happen, a check from your insurance company, reimbursing you because they collected that deductible from the other party. How long a claim takes is probably the most frustrating question I get, because it really depends on a lot of things. There are some things that really shouldn't take very long, right? So if we file the claim, it really should only take 24, 48 hours, 72 tops before an adjuster gets in contact with you. Once the claim is determined to be covered by the policy, the distance between that moment and when you get paid, also a very short period of time. Unfortunately, the circumstances in between those things are very difficult to tell, right? Sometimes the claims are very easy. You know, it's something that occurred and you're the only one it occurred to. So let's say it was a fire in your kitchen. It only happened to you. It was obviously something that was covered by the policy, on your property policy, and so therefore the company pays relatively quickly. But sometimes you're one of 20,000 people during a hurricane who's trying to file a claim at the same time. And because of the length of time it takes to get the human beings out there to do the work and the availability of repair, of materials for repair, that ends up delaying your claim in ways that no one could possibly expect. So my recommendation to you is that you get that claim filed as quickly as possible, that you have as much documentation to be able to help the claim move more smoothly, be responsive and proactive versus reactive, and that will get your claim closed quicker. Do I need a public adjuster? I get that question so often simply because people don't know how public adjusters work. They don't quite know how claims work. And so their question is am I going to lose out on something if I don't have a public adjuster? And the answer to that is, well, reality is you don't need a public adjuster to file a claim. Period and end of story. A public adjuster in certain circumstances can definitely help with a claim. The number one place I recommend a public adjuster is when there is a person who's not familiar with the claims process and doesn't have the time necessary to do all of the legwork to get through the process. Now, it's important that you understand that if you choose to hire someone to represent you in that claim, like a public adjuster, they're going to take a cut of that claim. So you're not going to have as much money to repair your property or for that situation than you would have had if you tried to just do it on your own. Now, that being said, sometimes insurance companies just aren't acting as the way as they should, and a public adjuster can assist in being able to cut through the red tape just because of their experience. That's the second time I recommend a public adjuster. Now, the only times I recommend public adjusters are when those public adjusters are reputable. Those public adjusters, their main focus is not how much they're going to get you. If you hear a public adjuster only talk about how much they're going to get you, their focus is off. Their focus should simply be getting you through that claims process as quickly and efficiently as possible so that you can get back to living your life as quickly as possible. A public adjuster who takes that approach is going to have your best interests at mind, isn't going to take advantage of situations that occur through this process to enrich them and not necessarily get you to where you're going to. So public adjusters are good if used in the right circumstances, but you don't need one to file a claim.